18. Fighting on the presses, fighting on some fiends, fighting breaks my records, fighting what do I see? God body on action, fighting trying to stay clean. Might need a stretcher, holding on to my cool. Give me a second to call up my crew, so I can pay you back in the name of the moon. Changing form, for you I say I'm raging swarm. Oh, demons, I ain't afraid no more. Come get this, cause this place is yours. Oh, can't ignore the fact that I became too sure that you'd be mine and I'd be yours. So bust it, what you waiting for? I'll be a Sailor Moon. I'll be a Sailor Moon. I'll be a Sailor Moon. I'll take you to the moon. There's only room for two. When I go with you, I'll be a Sailor Moon. My day, my dreams, I feel no pressure. Fly with no wings, I like us together. Tied with no strings, down for whatever. Timing might bring, like power jets is on my shoes. I travel anywhere with you. Safely bring you back in the name of the moon. What's going on, everybody? The demons ain't afraid no more. Come get this, cause this place is yours. No one can ignore the fact that I became too sure that you'd be mine and I'd be yours. So what's it, what you waiting for? I'll be a Sailor Moon. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in now and in the future. What's going on, YouTube? Oh yeah, that was Leia, Sailor Moon. That's the jam right there. What's going on? What you been doing? Good. Happy holidays. It's official. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I certainly did. As I said before, I was not this year, as far as Thanksgiving, excuse me, I chose to not really do any kind of big partying or going to gatherings and things like that. I just wanted some me time, some alone time, and I wanted some time to be able to do my own meditations and rituals and my own self-care, which included going to the gym. Yes, I do go to the gym on the holidays. That's no excuse. If that's my day to work out, then that's my day to work out. I will take exceptions sometimes, but this past Thanksgiving was not that exception. Nonetheless, I did have a very wonderful Thanksgiving. I felt a lot. I experienced and also expressed a lot of gratitude to my loved ones and to my friends and loved ones and my family. And I got in contact with all of my family and my loved ones. Excuse me. And I tried to get in touch with most of my friends. I have a lot of people I didn't get to reach out to, but they know that I love and care for them, and I'm always thinking about them. So it's not a big deal. I also reached out to some of the more distant relatives of mine that I had recently gotten to know in the recent years. So that was always a good thing there. So yes, overall it was a great holiday. I did not participate in eating a lot. Matter of fact, I stayed on my diet regimen. Now I know diet is a loaded word, it, trust me, I was not miserable. I was not missing out. I was, I ate what I wanted to eat. I ate ribeye steak with sauteed mushrooms and baby gold potatoes, and my own garden salad, which consisted of chard, mustard green, collard green, red kale, organic kale. What else did I have in there? I had the mustard green. I had a red lettuce, and I also had butter lettuce. I had Roma tomatoes and heirloom tomatoes, and then of course I had some cheese and some ham in there. No dressing. I'm used to eating it. I don't like the dressings. I don't want any dressing. So that was a really, really healthy and, might I say, delicious for me. I know some people don't like kale or whatever. That's on you. I love it, and I'm lucky that way. My taste buds conform to what I need to eat for the most part. And of course, my ribeye steak. Nobody makes the ribeye the way I like it, the way I do it, better than I do it. So I had my perfect. Oh my God, it was so perfect. It was medium rare, the way I like it, and it was just seared on the outside, so good and juicy, full of flavor on the inside, and so tender. Oh my goodness. And of course, with my sauteed mushrooms and my baby gold potatoes. Of course, I have it portion control, so it wasn't one of those 15-ounce ribeyes by no means. It was a small 4-ounce. Okay. But nonetheless, that's what I like. I don't really like turkey. I'm not a big turkey person. That American food, it doesn't really, it's not, I've never really liked American food. Ever since I came to this country, I did not. I gravitated to other foods. Of course, I like my own home cooked German food, but I love, absolutely love a lot of Asian dishes like Thai and Japanese and Korean. Oh my goodness. All right. But when it comes to my favorite meal, I have my standard steak, potatoes, mushrooms, and salad. So that's what I will be also eating on Christmas. All right. I have COVID. I found out I have COVID. I've been very, very sick. And that's probably why my nose has been running with the last couple of videos I've done. It's been a while. I've had some sickness for a while. I'm powering through, so no worries. It's a doozy. It is very difficult, I have to say. This is some shit. This is some shit. But I'm keeping my spirits up, you know what I mean? Because all you can do is just go through it, And I'm experiencing a lot of discomfort, to put it nicely. But I'm up and about, and I continue, and I plan on continuing to be up and about. I have my medications. The doctors loaded me up with all kinds of stuff. I'm good, just going through it. And so I decided to do a video because I'm not allowed to do too much, I'm told, which, whatever, whatever. Okay, whatever, fine. But yeah, just wanted to give you an update because I wanted to talk about this acquired communal narcissism. I know I've been promising that for a couple of videos now that I am going to get around to it, so I'm not, I haven't forgot, but now it's kind of hard for me to focus in and zero in on the topic the way that I would like, to where I can give something presentable out into the YouTube and internet world. So we're still going to be working on that. No worries on that. Mental health is a big topic. I've had some people ask, "Well, how come you harping on the narcissism topic?" And I think it is a triggering topic, as I mentioned in the other video. I believe it to be a triggering topic for sure. I think there was some people that were triggered. Not quite sure how they got to this channel, but they did not appreciate the information that I was sharing in regards to narcissism on this channel. And the reason I talk about narcissism is because I'm a big believer in mental health. And I'm a big believer in, if you have things that you know about in life that you have some kind of experience on, if you feel like you want to share that, then I believe you should. There's nothing wrong with sharing your knowledge and your experience and your expertise. I'm no expert by means on anything. I don't claim to be an expert on anything. I don't care how long I've been involved in something or how much I've learned and experienced about something. I don't see myself as an expert by no means in anything. I'm just another person that has X amount of experience, X amount of knowledge, but I'm not the end all to whatever topic. There are many, many people that are much more knowledgeable about that, and that's basically with anyone that you're dealing with. There are many other people that know much more than that person, have much more experience. But that doesn't mean that you should just discount that person or ignore that person. But we all know somebody who is better at something than we are, and we all know people that are not as good at something as we are. So nobody knows everything. And I think that the more information and experience that we can pull together, as far as from a human standpoint on any given matter, the better I think we would be off, right? Because what one person experiences may not be the same as what others experience, but when we can bring all of this experience together and analyze it and absorb it and process it and do something positive with it and moving forward, then I mean, we need everyone's experience. We need everyone's data and information in regards to a given topic, right? So that's where I'm at on that. So that's why I talk about narcissism, because I have lived with individuals of the antisocial personality cluster, which includes narcissism, narcissistic personality disordered people. Now, I myself am not a mental health professional to diagnose anyone. However, I will say that if those individuals are not narcissistic personality diagnosed, it doesn't mean that they don't have that condition. And it doesn't mean that even if they don't have that condition, it doesn't mean that they aren't still close to that cluster, or they're within that antisocial personality disordered cluster, or ASP. All right, excuse me for a minute. Excuse me. All right, so give me a minute. I'm trying to recover, regroup. All right, so that does not mean that they are not in that antisocial personality disorder cluster, okay? But even, let me go back. Just because a person is diagnosed doesn't necessarily mean they've been diagnosed correctly, okay? Someone can be diagnosed as one thing with one doctor, and they can go to another one, and that other one will say, you know what, no, I don't think that's quite right, I think you're this over here. Okay, so there's that too. Okay, and then you have people, a lot of narcissistic personality disordered people are never diagnosed, not because there's a lack of knowledge on the mental health profession, but because these individuals refuse to even go to any mental health professionals. So if you can't get them in the door to be diagnosed, then there's so many of them running out there that would have a diagnosis if they would go to a mental health professional. But that's the hallmark of a narcissist. They never, ever, ever will go to a mental health professional, because in their mind, there's nothing wrong with them. They're perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. It's the other person's fault. You see, that's the hallmark of a narcissist. So by default, you're going to have a lot of these types of people with these conditions, undiagnosed, walking the face of this earth. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you, I have unfortunately have had to live with such people and experience such people early on in my life. So I share what I know and what I've experienced to a limited extent. I will share that. Okay, there's a lot of bad things I've experienced that I will never share on any kind of social media. Okay, that I've only shared with police officers, district attorney, attorney generals, special investigators, child protective services, and so forth and so on. DHR, okay. But as far as some of that stuff, I just have not and will not share that on social media platforms. It's just that's what I've decided to do it that way. But I have shared quite a bit that gives people an indication of some of the things that I have experienced, and I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the first one, and I know I won't be the last one, unfortunately, to go through these types of things. But I think that perhaps maybe my voice can give someone out there who may be listening some kind of something, some kind of energy that may keep them going moving forward, that maybe prevents them from giving up, from giving up and letting someone else destroy them, and maybe giving them some kind of hope in some kind of way. I mean, look, I'm not trying to be anyone's role model. I'm not trying to be a personal savior, none of that. I can't save anybody but myself, and that's maybe I can save myself, but I certainly can't do it for anybody else. But I just figure I'd throw my 2 cents out there. I mean, that's why I'm alive. That's why I exist. So I figured that's why I'm here, to throw my 2 cents of how I see things and how I've lived things, in regards to certain topics. So that's what I'm doing. So yeah, that's why I am kind of focusing in on the mental health topic, specifically narcissism, and what some of the people have been going through. And I think this holiday season, as I said in some of the other videos, things like this sky up. Scammers sky up, beggars. I mean, I see them all over the place now. I'm getting weird calls and texts, and all of a sudden now I've won the lottery, or somebody in Nigeria is thinking I'm the most gorgeous man in the world. But by the way, they need about $2,000 for their mother's cancer surgery. I mean, it's all skying up. It's all the cockroaches are crawling out of the woodworks because it's Christmas time and people are triggered in all kinds of ways. Even if you're not narcissist, even if you don't have narcissists to deal with, you still have to deal with scammers every which way you turn. If you go to the grocery store, they're standing right by the door, ringing their bells. Donate, give us money. I mean, they don't need the money any other time of year, right? I mean, there's this one corner every Christmas season. It is filled with panhandlers. But the rest of the year, you don't see none of them out there. And these panhandlers, they have some nice ass jackets. You hear me? They got some nice shoes. I'm looking at their clothes saying, damn, where you go shopping at? You dress better than me. This lady came up to me, this Chinese lady, okay? She had on a petticoat. She had on some style and fashion. She must have been in her 50s or 60s, okay? And she was walking up to me, and she had a Starbucks coffee in one hand, and she had a styrofoam closed box lunch plate in the other hand, right? Smelling good too, coffee steaming. Walked up to the person next to me, asked them for some change, and they looked her up and down and said nope, shook their head. Then she was like looking at me, and I just told her, you need to give me some of that coffee and some of that breakfast before I give you any money, lady. Like, I don't know. You're doing better than me. You need to be giving me some money, lady. And she laughed and said, no, no, and kept on walking. Rule number one, if you're going to panhandle, do not dress up to panhandle, all right? And don't have food and drink in your hands already, okay? Like, that defeats the purpose of getting people to give you money. You're going to walk up to somebody with a hot cup of coffee and a big-ass breakfast thing, smelling good, and asking me for money? Bitch, you better give me some of that breakfast and that coffee is what you better do, and dress to the T's. Where are you going, lady? Why? What do you need money for? I know you're going to get into some kind of Cadillac behind the building somewhere because I've seen that happen. You're going to get in behind the building somewhere and get into your Rolls Royce and drive on down the road laughing all the way to the bank. I've seen that happen. I've seen this lady. She used to go. This was in another state. I used to at night. I used to do a lot of freelancing work and paperwork, so I'd have to go to Kinko's because the apartment that I lived in was right across, and I didn't have any printers, any copiers. So I would go to that 24-hour Kinko's, and I always go around the evening time, and it'd be this old lady going in there. Um, she like I said, she looked a little too nice. Like she did not look like she was on the street. She was dressed a little too nice, right? Little skinny lady, always asking people for change in Kinko's, outside of Kinko's, right? And one day I drove up behind the building. I cut through behind the building because I was going to get on the interstate and go somewhere else. And I just happened to see her get into a baby blue Cadillac. Kid you not. A fucking Cadillac. And I rolled down my window. I was like, I knew you weren't homeless. And I pointed to her and she turned around and looked and she hurried up and got in her Cadillac and drove away. I was like, I knew you weren't homeless. So next time I saw her at Kinko's, I said very loud, I said, she has a Cadillac. Do not give her any money. Her Cadillac is parked behind the building here. I saw her myself get in that Cadillac. And how about she turned around and walked out of that Kinko's. I never saw her in Kinko's again. If she came back to Panhandle, she must have been doing it when I wasn't there because I never saw her again in there. I was like, yeah, I knew this lady was not homeless. Hell no. Anyway, back to this whole thing. So this is the season for all kinds of scammers. You got these people that will try to get something from you. And if some of them want the money, some of them want your energy. They want your soul and your spirit and your mind. That's what they want. And they'll do the same thing. They'll have you think that they're bad off, or they'll work your sympathy glands. If they can't get your sympathy glands, they try to get your guilt glands. If they don't work, they try to get your greed glands. Some of them try to use sexual seduction. It is all kinds of games out here that you got to worry about. Besides the COVID virus, you have a lot of mental viruses out here. And one big virus out here right now that is going around besides COVID is one of predatory exploitation and abuse. You better listen to what I'm saying, and it's right in front of our faces. And see, a lot of people are dismissive and enablers of things. You have people that are dismissive and enablers of horrible, horrible things. And it's them trying to normalize it on several levels. Okay. Case in point, recent news with these narcissistic celebrities and politicians meeting together, and spewing this anti-Semitic rhetoric, okay. But this is what human beings have done for centuries and for forever. You have these religions out here, and every one of them think that they're the only one, that they're the only chosen one. They are the only truthful. They're the ones that have the only truth, and everybody else is wrong. And that's where that pernicious virus starts, because that opens the door for all kinds of abuse and oppression of innocent lives. The minute one group starts that mentality, we have the number one truth. We are the chosen ones. And it doesn't even have to be religious. It can be quasi self improvement. I mean, we've got Scientology and things like that that don't believe in the Lord, quote unquote, or Jesus or Buddha or Allah or whatever, but it's still they they see themselves as the chosen ones that have the the truth that everyone else should have, and they got to go save the rest of the planet, and whoever's against Scientology basically doesn't deserve to live. Isn't that always the same story? Now, they won't say it that way, but, I mean, come on. The Lord's going to destroy all the unbelievers, all the evildoers, all the wicked ones, all the outsiders. Come on, this is how it's always been, and it's a vicious cycle. The oppressors become the ones who are oppressed, and the oppressed at some point will cycle into becoming oppressors. And you have that all over. In Africa, you had African tribes and African nations, different African cultures oppressing each other and enslaving each other. And part of that was what fueled the Atlantic slave trade and the Arabian slave trade. And even earlier, when you have Chinese slave trade, uh, and then you have the same thing. You had in the Bible times, you had Jewish people who were oppressed, and then you had them going and killing other nations because they weren't believers and they were Gentiles and they didn't worship Yahweh, right? And all of that. So, it really is a very bad virus that has been in our mass human consciousness since probably the dawn of time. And it doesn't look like it's ever going to stop because humans, I think as a whole, we are we have a long way to go in evolving beyond and rising above our limited situations. We have so much dysfunction in our human society all over the globe. Very, very, very few of us are able to rise above it, because we have the reactionary. It takes a lot to use your prefrontal cortex and to override your automatic fight or flight biology. So when you are hurt, when you are attacked, the first and most natural response is to attack back, right? To tit for tat, return the favor, right? But that was the whole thing when you had spiritual movements, not religious, but spiritual movements early on in our history, where the idea was to override that animalistic urge and to maybe respond. Do I always have to fight? No, I don't always have to fight. Can there be some flight? Quote unquote. Yes, there can be some flight. Or can there be another way? So then we went past the black or white fight or flight into perceiving a wider part of reality where not everything is black or white. Not everything is absolute terms. There's a lot of gray area in life, right? But very few of us are really able to carry that out consistently every day and also carry it out all across the board. We may be really great at doing that in some areas of life, especially if we have to work somewhere, where we have to do certain things or else we're not going to eat. But when it comes to our own personal things behind closed doors when no one is looking, or when we're dealing with others who may be less powerful than us and may be at a disadvantage, who may never be able to fight back if someone were to abuse them. What are we doing then? Because that's when things count the most, when no one's looking, you see. That's when things count the most, when no one is looking. You see. So we have a lot of work to do as a whole humanity in general as far as mental health is concerned, because mental health needs to be, we need to change our view and our attitude as in regards to mental health and psychological issues. We need to look at mental health and people who go to counselors and who are actively working on their mental health. We need to view it the same way as people who are going to the gym and who are dieting and exercising. When someone goes to the gym, there's no one that says, oh my God, they're sick. Their health is sick. Oh my God, they must have cancer. Or oh my God, they're crazy. No one says that. There's no stigma there, right? Most people will say, oh, that's great. You're working out. Good. I need to work out too, you know. Most people are, you're not going to have a stigma behind it, right? But when someone says, I'm seeing a counselor, or when someone says, I think you should see a counselor, there's a huge stigma there. You know, some people feel insulted. What do you mean I should see a counselor? What? Nothing's wrong with me. You should go. And why? Anything in life can take you out. Heck, you might have had a really great childhood, right? You might have had wonderful parents that did not abuse you, that took care of you, that were there for you, that loved and nurtured you, gave you unconditional love, gave you the best that they could give you, and gave you the best start in life, prepared you for life, and you have a great family. Great family, great friends, right? But and that doesn't mean that that person will never have to deal with some major mental health issues, okay? If you live long enough, you are going to go through some really, really bad shit. If you live long enough, it's inevitable. You know why? Because if you live long enough, you're going to have loved ones die. You're going to deal with the grief of the death of a loved one. And that can take you out. It can mentally take you out, especially if someone loses a child. Like, there are people that, you know, their marriages are ruined. Like, it just ruins everything because they cannot snap back because they've lost their child. Okay, that's unimaginable for me. I don't know what that's like. A disease, illnesses can really cause mental health problems. Okay, depression, anxiety. It can cause a number of mental health problems. Going through cancer, going through diabetes, or a number of issues, right? A car accident can cause someone to have mental health issues because of the trauma and because of the second order consequences. Perhaps they lose their job. Perhaps they don't have insurance, or they don't have a lot of good insurance, so they have a huge financial crisis now. And it can be a domino effect. And hey, we still have COVID to deal with. Hell, I have COVID, right? So that could cause mental health issues. Anything in life, no one's immune to that. And it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're crazy. You know what's crazy and you know what's wrong is knowing there's a problem, knowing you need help, and not going and getting the help. Like Kanye West, this dude, he has more than enough means to seek proper mental health. More than enough. I mean, most of us, you know, to see a counselor at least once a week for a couple of hours, that's $200, $300, $400. Because you know you're going to need a decent counselor, and they're going to need to get paid, and they're going to be like $150, $160 an hour. Okay? Okay, because they're specialized, they're skilled. So for most people, mental health is very difficult to get quality mental health care on a regular basis. The amount of time that they need is impossible for them to get because they don't have the money. And you know, I'm talking about people who are lawyers, who are nurses, you know, people who make good money. let alone people who work blue collar jobs or maybe even low income, and COVID has wiped out a lot of people's 401ks and jobs, and, a lot of people lost their homes. So, how are they going to get any kind of mental health to deal with all of this stuff that they're having to deal with, which is exacerbating their mental health? You see what I mean? So when I see celebrities who have billions, billions as in billions of dollars, and they're not doing their part in getting their mental health in check, I just can't. I just can't. I have no respect for people like that. None whatsoever. No respect. These people are just useless garbage and parasites in my eyes. And not only that, but they're causing a lot of heartache and pain and danger. They're encouraging violent ideologies. They're denying the Holocaust. This is horrible stuff. They're denying slavery, and it's a person who themselves is a minority. That's the insane thing. That is the insane thing. But hey, we all make choices. We all make choices. And those types of people, they always go down a path. And after they get done being used a certain way, then they get disposed of. And nobody's gonna feel sorry for people like that when their time is up, which certain ones seems like their time is real close, you know. But yeah, I could talk to you about mental health all day. I've always been a big proponent about mental health, working on your mental health, no matter where you are, who you are, no matter how well you think you are, there's always room for improvement. And I don't think it would hurt to seek a path, a regimen, a regular routine of mental health awareness and self maintenance. Okay, and now I'm not saying everyone needs to go see a counselor every day. No, I'm not saying that. Okay, but what I am saying is if you have something that's going on in your life, don't let society's stigma stop you from getting the help that you need. No one's perfect. Just because you may need a little help from a mental health facilitator doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're flawed. It just means you're a human being who is smart enough to know that if you don't work on these particular things with yourself and have someone that's compassionate, that's qualified and competent and compassionate to hold you accountable and to facilitate that process, then you're going to be stuck. And all that's going to do is make things worse because mental health, having a mental health issue is just like a physical thing. You can get infections if you don't get certain things treated. Things can fester. Cancer can fester and continue to spread throughout your body and kill you. So if you don't go and try and get some medical treatment to give yourself the possibility of a remission and surviving that cancer, then you don't have any hope. And this is the same thing with mental health. Some of this mental health problems can kill you. Okay? And you're probably wondering, well, how can that be if it's all in your head? Yeah, but see, your mental state influences your actions and your behaviors. So, smoking cigarettes on a regular basis, drinking a lot of alcohol, overeating on the wrong foods, these things can all cause you to die. Chronic misuse of food and alcohol, anything, cigarettes, overindulgence and misuse of that can kill you. Heart disease, cholesterol, diabetes, all this stuff is killing people. These are the big killers. These things kill more than the wars, than World War II and the World War One. So all of this has to do with mental health. These people who cannot stop eating all of this bad food, it's because They are using the food to deal with psychological issues that they are not able to resolve themselves. Many people have these food addictions. Many of us have them. When we're stressed from work, what's the first thing we want? Comfort food. That's drugs. There's drugs and chemicals in those foods. You're not reaching for a raw piece of broccoli straight up out of the ground like our ancestors. You're not reaching for some apples or some bananas. You're not reaching for some buffalo meat. You're reaching for fried chicken that's dipped in butter and salt and sugar and fat and mayonnaise on hamburgers and things. You know, chicken tenders and pizza. You're reaching for all of that. All that has chemicals, drugs. Hello, it's drugs. Drugs. It's straight up drugs, baby. It's straight up drugs. McDonald's, drugs. Grocery store potato chips and Cheetos, drugs. It's all drugs. Why you think you can't just have one? Why you think you eat one and then all of a sudden you want the whole bag? It's drugs in there. They put them in there to keep you eating, to keep you buying, and to keep you sick. If you trace the roots of all of these major food companies behind KFC, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Cheetos, Frito-Lays, Domino's Pizza, all of these companies, if you trace the money sources of those corporations, they all got different names, but if you trace them, you're going to find a link between those corporations and the tobacco industry and the pharmaceutical industries, because the main money pools behind all of those are the same people. And this isn't some kind of conspiracy bullshit. This is just real stuff. Like, these companies know, hey, we're not just going to sell you fried chicken. We're also going to sell you the diabetes medicine that you're going to have to take after years of stuffing yourself with this fried chicken. But we ain't not going to sell you just fried chicken. We're also going to sell you the beverages, the soft drinks, and we're going to tell you it's this name and that name and that name, so we can cash in on everybody, because people need an us versus them. So they put the little us versus scheme in the religious thing. You got Satan the devil, then you got Lord Jesus God, right? Or you got Allah and the devil, or you got whatever in this, right? Scientology, it's Xenu, okay? Well, in food world, it's Coke versus Pepsi. In the sports world, it's UCLA versus USC. You know what I mean? Or the Oakland Raiders versus this, or the Atlanta Braves versus the Dodgers. Or the Republicans versus the Democrat. It's all built in. It's the same scheme, and it's all designed to get you. If you're not for that, then you're going to be for that. And, it's hard to not be caught in that net. But the bottom line is this: you have a choice. You always have a choice. You can let yourself be pulled along with the tide, with the masses, or you can decide to do it differently. And it may take some extra work. It takes some strength. It takes character. It takes some self-awareness to know who you are. Because you might have a lot of people around you that may give you a lot of backlash for deciding to be different, for deciding not to go along with that. I've always been told you need to go with the status quo and you always want to do your own thing. I've always been discouraged of being my own individual self coming up as a child and as a teenager and a young adult. And all that did was make me want to be myself even more. All that did was just make me dig in my heels even more. But that's the thing. You might have that even as an adult. You may have people around you that will give you problems. And you know what? When you are seriously working on bettering yourself, you will have opposition from those around you. That is just human proclivity. And to an extent, Okay, I'm not going to say you need to tolerate inappropriate things, but to an extent, it is built into humans to kind of be competitive with each other to some extent. So you may have some people out of ignorance do and say XYZ to try to hold you back, excuse me, to discourage you from continuing on because it makes them uncomfortable. You working on yourself, and this is what I've noticed, especially when you are working on dieting and exercising. You will have people who will feel uncomfortable about you working on yourself. It's it's all their unfinished baggage, but they want to enlist you in it because they're uncomfortable and they can't handle the feeling because they know that they need to be doing that too, but they just won't. It takes a lot of self-discipline, willpower, and focus to really work on yourself. That is whether you're working on yourself physically or mentally. And if you're working from both angles, physically and mentally, you know, it's a lot. It's a big doozy. But you will have people that will try to sabotage you because they can't stand you moving further ahead and leaving them behind. They refuse to do the work for them, for themselves. They refuse to be committed to themselves and to be truthful and right with themselves. They won't give themselves that. So they don't want you to do it for yourself either, you see. So, you have to handle things accordingly. And then you'll have some people that may give you a little problem in the beginning, but you can work with them to where they can be assured that they still have a place in your life, and they don't they won't lose anything by you moving forward and having certain progress and working on yourself. But sometimes it's inevitable. Certain relationships will dissipate because you do become a different person when you work on yourself physically and mentally, especially mental health. You grow and you mature and you heal and you recover from certain things, and that may, it can affect, it changes you as a person because you become a much more expanded person, and you may find that certain things you don't have interest in anymore or certain things you don't need anymore, you know um, and by default certain people you may not cross paths with as much anymore. Like, one of the things with me is that I used to love to go to this. I used to love to go out to eat all the time, and I used to go to for this certain place all the time. Is this sushi place, and I had a friend over there. I always would talk to him when he was out there, and when I started cutting back on the eating out, that was one of the places I had to cut back more and more and more. Well, I didn't hang out with the guys much anymore because that was kind of like the time when I would hang out was down at that sushi place. And so, there's certain things in life that will change. But your true friends and your true loved ones, they will support you on your journey. And but you may have to make decisions, and these decisions are hard. I don't like to let go of anybody in my life, and I know I've let go of some people in my life, but honestly, it hurts me very much to let go. I'd rather keep people in my life. If I in an ideal world, I would keep every person I ever knew in my life, and but it's just not like that, and that's okay. It's okay not to have certain people in your life, and it's okay not to be in certain people's lives. We're all we all have a different path sometimes, and that's okay. But yeah, I got I can talk about this stuff. This, like I said, this mental health stuff and working on yourself. I can talk about it quite a bit. It's something that I feel is an important thing. I myself may fall short, of my own goals of improvement, and it's a work in progress. Life is like that. It's a whole work in progress. You're gonna keep trying. You're gonna make many mistakes, and you might make more mistakes. You might fall short more often than not. But the whole point about life is not how many times you win and succeed, but it's about how many times you get right back up after being knocked down to the ground. That's really what life is about. Because at the end of the life, that's the only thing you can take with you is these times and these events where you've gotten back up after being knocked down, okay, after hitting rock bottom. You're only going to be able to take with you the amount of love that you've given and put out in your lifetime and the amount of love that you've gotten back. That is the only currency that is accepted once you cross that threshold from this life to the next afterlife and afterworld. Okay? That is the only thing. You can't take any of your homes, your cars, your jewelry, your credit card, your bank account. None of that will be of any use to you. Someone else is going to get it. So you just have to let go. Let go and face forward with what you've lived. What have you lived? What have you lived up until this time right now? Are you happy with what you've lived in overall terms? Do you like who and what you see in the mirror? More importantly, do you love who and what you see in the mirror? Is that someone appealing to you? And if not, why not? How can you make that person more appealing to you? There's some things to work out. You know what I mean? If you can't stand the sight of yourself in the mirror, that is a huge indication that you got some work to do. Okay? And even if you love the sight of yourself in the mirror, that doesn't mean you might not have some major work to do. We all have major work to do. I don't care who you are. If you're a human being, you've got a lot of work to do because we partly share in a lot of mass injustice, whether we personally did anything or not. My ancestors, I've done some ancestry DNA and genome link and my heritage and 23andMe. I've done quite a bit of ancestry DNA testing. And throughout these DNA tests, I have discovered that I have over 17. I thought it was 14 the other day. I said it was 14 to someone, but it's actually over 17 different ethnicities in my DNA that spans basically almost the entire globe. Okay? So I believe that we carry our ancestors' experiences, the things that they've lived and seen and done and thought and felt. Uh, these experiences are in my DNA, and I believe in all of our DNA. Okay, so this affects us on all levels. Physically, the things we inherit physically, eye color, hair color, dispositions towards diseases, personality traits, skin color, body shape. Mentally, which can include certain predispositions towards mental situations. Okay? I don't believe that we are enslaved to heredity alone. I also don't believe that environment alone is the cause of anything, but I think it's a combination of variables. Okay? And it's never the same with two people, right? But also spiritually and emotionally, we inherit things. And I'm touching part of this. Part of this is epigenetics. There is a field, there are several fields out there, including epigenetics, that are in line with that thought and do have some kind of scientific empirical evidence to support that. So, just like I said earlier, everything that we have physically, there's also a non physical counterpart. There's a mental counterpart and an emotional counterpart and a spiritual counterpart. It is just like the physical organs, hearts and lungs and stomach. We also have psychic organs too. They're not physical, but we still have these faculties. And they can be injured, they can be healed, they can recover. You see what I mean? So when we live life, life is going to injure us. We're going to have trauma. Okay? Life is suffering. That's what the Buddha, the great Buddha said. And it's true. Life is suffering because we have many desires. We have many things we want. The 10,000 desires, the 10,000 things. That's what Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching talks about, in the I Ching, right? Ancient Chinese wisdom. The 10,000 things. Okay, just when you get one thing when you get one desire gratified, you're going to have 10,000 other new ones now, right? You're going to get used to that. You get that nice car that you want. Give it a day or two, a week or a month or a year, and you're used to it. Now you're like, well, I really would like this, and this is a bigger and a better car, a bigger and a better house, a bigger and a better fill in the blanks, right? And we're never ever going to be without desire. Nothing wrong with desire, by the way. It's all in how you handle the desire. Okay? I'm not one to say, hey, you shouldn't have your desires fulfilled, but it's all in how you move and flow and grow in your lifetime and deal with these 10,000 desires, the 10,000 things, right? Okay. So, again, I'm all for mental health. People need to go and work on their mental health the same way people need to go work on the gym, on the physical fitness and diet. Working out 3 to 5 days a week in the gym, right? That's what we're all supposed to be doing. Whether you're fat or skinny, whether you're fit or not, we all need to work out and exercise, and we all need to eat healthy. We all need to eat healthy. And this is the same thing. We all need some mental health facilitators. We all need a little guidance sometimes. No one can just do it on their own by themselves. Now, I'm not going to discard, I know people will say, well, I have the Lord, or I have Allah, or I have my pastor. Listen, it's just like saying, oh, I have my pastor, I don't need to take my car to a mechanic. Unless your pastor is a certified and experienced mechanic that can overhaul a transmission, look, I'm not saying don't go to your pastor and pray with your pastor to help get your car fixed, but take that bad boy to a mechanic, okay? You can still go pray with your pastor. You can still read your Bible scriptures, okay? You can still do all of that and sing in church, hallelujah, but get your car fixed. Go get the car fixed by a mechanic, okay? Okay, because praying over that car over and over and over is not going to get that transmission fixed, okay? And you can't blame the pastor for your car not getting fixed. Don't blame your God for your car not getting fixed. Don't blame some devil somewhere for your car not getting fixed. It's the same thing. Don't blame the devil for your mental health problems. You know, when you experience second order consequences from not having worked on yourself, and I know some of these things, some of us have some serious issues because we look away from family dysfunction, from early childhood family dysfunction, serious stuff that's too overwhelming to deal with. You know what I mean? A lot of us have been guilty. Hey, I've been guilty of it. I had looked away on serious family dysfunction for many years of my early life as an adult. Like I was physically an adult, but mentally I was so brainwashed. There was just it was impossible for me to see this. And when I started going to counseling, I started going to counseling out of my own initiative at 21 years of age as soon as I left uh, the place of where I was a child. As soon as I left the parental units, I went to a mental health counselor. But it took me another 11 or 12 years to finally get to a very good mental health facilitator to really open up my eyes and to guide me through that self awareness process to where I was able then to look at what happened to me in my childhood and how it is affecting me and how can I heal and recover and grow, you see. So even all those years of me going, and and I mean, I just knew I just knew that mental health was important, and I knew that what I went through at home, I was pretty damaged. I knew enough of that. Like I mean, I was depressed. I was suicidal. Like that, it didn't take a brain surgeon to know, hey, there's something very, very, very wrong with how I've experienced things at home. But even at that, at 21, I didn't have a lot of money. And I was actually living in my car when I was seeking mental health, a counselor. And once I told them what was, what happened to me as a kid and my situation now as an adult, you know, look, the time and place where I was at, I think they did their best what they could do. But even at that, this was a free clinic. So, I paid on a sliding scale. I think I paid $3 to $5 per counseling session. So not to say that free clinics don't have really good counselors sometimes, but like I told you earlier, mental health professional, like anything else, the more money you have, the better quality you're going to get. So even with the things that I had, I made the best that I could do. I made the best that I could do with it over the years, but it took me at least another 11, 12, 13 years. I was in my 30s when I finally got to a really good mental health professional where I could really, really, really do some major work. Okay. So this isn't easy. This isn't something that you're just going to do right quick, and have this done and over with in a few weeks or in a couple of months or in a couple of years, even. You might be looking at the rest of your life. I mean, that's basically how I look at my own journey and my own routine. Is this is something I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life. But hey, I do a lot of things for the rest of my life now. So hey, it is what it is. But the importance I'm stressing of mental health because we are in a world where we are surrounded by unhealthy people that are mentally unstable and unhealthy, and many of these people are toxic and dangerous. And it's being normalized. And it's a lot like the boiling water, the frog in the boiling water. People are looking around at each other. They're looking at their peers and their family and their workmates and their neighbors to see if there's a problem, if they should react. Like they know logically, hey, there's something wrong here, but nobody's freaking out, so I guess it's okay. And that's what the herd mentality is. You see, the Serpico syndrome. Everybody's looking to everybody else, and I guess nobody's doing anything. Okay, I guess I don't need to do anything. I guess everything's fine. I guess I'll just accept this ideology as normal and okay. You see? So that's where mental health comes in, because you can have, how you have mass hallucination, you can have mass narcissism, where people who ordinarily out of individual at an individual level, they're not narcissists, but because they're in a group and they're looking at their family and their peers and they're seeing them do this, well, then to them, they think, okay, well, I guess It's okay for me to join in, even though you knew better. Even though you knew better. You see? Um, I'm trying to think of that. The Milgram experiment. That's now that's I won't say narcissism. I don't think that's totally 100% relatable in that respect, but in the respect that people were influenced by what they accepted as a figure of authority, telling them to increase the voltage on shocks on a human being on the other side of the wall. And the shocks were high enough to kill. And they would hear the other person scream and beg them to stop shocking them and tell them, I'm about to pass out. So even when they thought the other person was passed out, they would still obey the commands of the man in the white lab coat that was Dr. So and so. By the way, they never were shown any proof of it, that this person was even a doctor. They continued to send shocks, high voltage shocks, that they knew were enough to kill a person. Okay? So that's why I talk about mental health and narcissism and these types of things, because I'm not here to vilify anybody or to make anyone evil. Okay? I'm just stating facts and I'm bringing out mental health stuff. Because a lot of this toxic and straight up evilness is normalized in our mainstream society. And it's hard to untwist that when you're trying to really work on your own mental health, because at some point you're going to realize there's a lot of things going on that are not healthy, that are dismissed, that are tolerated, people are enabling it. Okay, so yeah, so there's that. I'm gonna take a quick break and I shall be back, and after that break I might talk a little bit about, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Let me see here. I'm trying to pull up my little songs. Plus, I've got a really throbbing headache. So, it's gonna be a couple of songs here, but don't worry, I shall be back. Enjoy the music. I'm sure if you're listening to this at some point in the future, you can just fast forward to when I begin to talk again. But yeah, let me say, let me say. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay.
I don't know why you say what you say to me. You play it so safely, but you won't make that space for me. Still don't need no one saving me. I got to keep that thing on me. Never I waited on safety. Ironically, you be watching me, but it's crazy all the things you don't see. Baby, I'm with you. Dealing with my problems, I don't know where to start. Girl, I hate when you say we growing apart. She keep me healthy, she watch what I eat. Put her in me back beside in the seat. Driving around smoking gas on E. She want a smart guy to get geek. Shorty, your confidence turn me on. Got her an AP to match her charm. Tell me what you need, I get whatever you want. Go for a bite, spend 1,000 on lunch. Ain't trying to display no public affection. Chillin' in the VIP, got killers in the section. When we get lit, make a toast with a bottle. Shorty gon' pull up whenever I call her. It's not my fault that you can't be beside me. You said a day that you gotta remind me. Never too vulnerable with who I trust. Keeping my stick and my feelings on tuck. Baby, I'm too clingy. I wanna be close all the time. So needy. Who needs that all the time? It's crazy cause I know you feel it. And you know you feel it too. Treat my body like VIP. On the couch, you can stand on the seat. To the floor, we bring to the beat. You ain't never been free like me. She don't cut up on the D like me. Pennies on with the low white tee. Yeah, cocoa with a low iced tea. We can do it like J and B. You got me rocking and rolling the way that you strumming on me. You tossing and turning, but no, we ain't sleeping up under the sheets. Yeah, I still don't know why you stay with me. Baby, I'm too clingy. I wanna be close all the time. So needy. Who needs that all the time? It's crazy cause I know you feel it. And you know you feel it too. Ain't nobody stopping us. Won't be out is dangerous. Let their opinions in the dust. Say can't nobody fuck with us. They'll never find a way to make us fade away. Our love won't fade away. No, they'll never find a way to make us fade away. Our love won't fade away. Warm days, cold nights, late October. Separated people say what we have is over. But hey, it only made us get closer. Said we couldn't go this time. Love is a wonder in Look at us, we're going this time. You can't get they don't want to see us going this time. Said we couldn't go this time. Look at us, we're going this time. Love is a wonder in all day long. Had their hands up, try to diminish me. But we stayed up, giving that crowd spotted and nickel D's. But they can't take away them precious memories. And I won't come between you and me. Warm days, cold nights, late October. Separated people saying what we had was over. But the hate only made us get closer, closer. Said we couldn't go this time. Love is a wonder in a love. Look at us, we're going this time. You can't get it. They don't island. They can't stop it now. We a problem now. Fuck all the comments. They be so toxic. We be kissing in public. You like it, I love it. You with it, I'm with it. We going the distance.
What's up? I'm back. What's going on? All right, hey. Yep, I am back. Trying to find my shirt. Here it is. I went and got something to drink, and I also took some of that cough promethazine, something with codeine, and I took some medication for this thing. I tell you, this thing is really kicking my ass. I know I'm really good at hiding things, but whoa. Alrighty. So I'll tell you a little bit about my progress as far as talking about health regimens and stuff, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I am starting to really see some changes. I'm at the 6 month mark. I've been sticking to this diet and exercise thing for a good solid 6 months straight. So hmm, it's they rolled around pretty fast, I have to say. Not that it was easy by no means. It's never easy. uh Excuse me, but my legs, I'm so excited about my legs because legs has always been a weak thing for me. I've always felt like I've had flabby legs, and I'm seeing my legs. Ooh, they trying to do something nice, and my clothes are fitting. I'm fitting into jeans that I haven't been able to fit in for a long time. So that is always exciting, right? And the hard work is showing. Like I said earlier, what you do behind closed doors when no one is looking is what really counts. What you do to people and with people who cannot fight back, who are powerless and helpless. That's what really counts. That's what you're really going to be judged on. And you see, People talk about some big sky daddy up in the sky about to judge them when they die. You know who's going to judge you? You. We all have a silent sentry within ourselves, with built in, you see, and it is everywhere we are because it is us. But there is a part of each of us, no matter how aware we are. See, this is why self-awareness is such an important thing in any endeavor in life. Self-awareness is number one. Some people might think it's money, some people might think it's power, but all of those things, if you don't have a healthy self-awareness, those things will mean nothing, and they can even hurt you. They can even make your life worse. When you are somebody who is not self-aware and you have lots of power and lots of money and lots of fame, you can end up hurting not only a lot of other people and causing a lot of damage, but you will end up ruining yourself because you will get that karma coming back to you. The more people you hurt, the more that karma, the bigger that snowball is going to be, that avalanche, you see. So self-awareness is number one in my book. And I know I cannot get enough self-awareness. Me personally, I think I'm blind as a bat when it comes to self-awareness. Although I have made huge strides from where I used to be, I know for a fact, I make no bones about it, and I don't kid myself about it. I'm blind as a bat when it comes to the bigger picture of self-awareness. And that's a healthy disposition to have, I think, for the rest of one's life. Never, ever get to the point where you think you know it all, where you think you are above yourself, because then you're playing into the fool card. Then somebody's going to get you if they haven't already got you. You know what I mean? But self-awareness, how do you get self-awareness? That's the tricky part. There's so many ways to go about it, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes because there's, nooks and crannies and edges and sides to us all that we would rather not look at or know or face or acknowledge or admit, not even to ourselves, right? Right? But the thing is, every one of us has the potential to be a saint and a savior, and we also have that same potential to be a killer. It's all in who actually does it, though. You have the potential to be an athletic superstar. You have the potential to be a scientific genius. You have the potential to be a playwright, a poet. You have the potential to be a violinist. But will you be a violinist? Will you be a poet? You know what I'm saying? We all have the potential to be everything. Everything, good, bad, and everything in between. But what will you end up being and doing and becoming and living? What is it that you're living? Even with all the good and all the bad, when it rains, and when it shines. What are you living in the midst of all that? That's the crucial thing. What are you learning about yourself and others? There's lots to learn all the time, right? And what I say about people when they've had toxic parents, when they had abusive parents, I tell people, parents are supposed to teach you something. When you're talking about honoring parents, honor your mother and your father, what that really means is that you need to be taken away some learnings. That's how you honor your mother and father, by learning from them, right? You can learn from everybody. You can even learn from a fool. A fool can teach you many things. A fool can teach you what not to do, right? And that's a strong learning thing too. Not just always learning what to do this and do that, do this, do that, but also what not to do. And so when I look at things like toxic parents, I look at what are the things that I can learn not to be. What can I learn? What are the things not to do? What examples are not am I not to follow? You see? And when you have that kind of a disposition, you have an easier way to self-awareness. It's not a guarantee because you still got to do the hard work. And you can't ever let yourself get lazy on it or cocky, right? But in the midst of all that, you want to always look at what can I take away from here as far as a learning lesson. Lots of people can teach you what not to do, what not to be, what not to say, what to avoid. There's lots to be learned of, and sometimes those people can teach you way more than the people that you might think who are officially supposed to teach you this, right? But ultimately, you got to be the one to teach yourself. All knowledge that there ever was or ever will be is accessible on certain realms. All information and knowledge that ever was or ever will be is accessible. When we talk about the internet, we think we're so advanced. We think we're so advanced with these computers and laptops and cell phones and all of this jazz. We're only mimicking what's already there in nature. There has always been an internet. We call it the Akashic Records. Computers, artificial intelligence, look in the mirror. That's what you are. We're a copy of a copy. We're made in an image of an image. you know? The physicist David Deutsch, he says that the chances that we are the original, as far as a human being, when he was asked about the possibility of there being artificial intelligence already out there, and that we are actually in an artificial intelligence environment. Our physical reality is actually a simulation. There is a theory, a school of theory on that. I think it's very likely. So David Deutsch was asked mathematically, what are the probabilities that we're the original human beings and that we're not in a simulation, that we're not a copy of a copy? And he said 1,000,000,000 to 1. So basically that means the chances that we are a copy of a copy in a simulation are 1,000,000,000. And the chances that we are not, that we are the original human being and we're not in a simulation is only 1 in 1,000,000,000. Okay, so basically you have a higher chance of winning the lottery than not being a copy of a copy. Basically, that's what it boils down to. Okay, and it's fascinating stuff. I'm a geek. I like science. I like physics. I like math. I like probabilities and things like that. So, but that's where we're at with things. That's reality here, right? Another thing, the further out you go into any direction in the universe, eventually you will come back the opposite end. And that is a fact. That is a fact. We have only been able to see as far as a certain amount. We call that the observable universe, but we really don't know what's in the rest of the universe. We don't even know how big it really is. But what we do know is the further out we send out light in one direction, eventually it reappears from the opposite direction. So what does that say about the universe? I know some people may ask, hey, how big is the universe then? Is it infinite or is it finite? Well, guess what? it really doesn't matter if it's infinite or finite because it curves in on itself like a spiral. That's why the further out you go in one direction, you end up coming back the opposite end. That's all of life and death, the whole cosmos in a nutshell. What you put out, you're going to get back. You reap what you sow, right? You go into one extreme, you're going to end up that very thing that's opposite of it. So, when it comes to mental health and physical health, it's all about balance and avoiding those extremes, right? And that's where self-awareness comes in, because just like the universe, we all have both lights and dark sides to us, and we cannot ignore one. We cannot just focus in on the light all the time. We also have to be in touch with our own darkness so that we can have a healthy constitution to us and be balanced, and recognize these dark parts of ourselves and integrate them in a healthy, balanced way and deal with these things, deal with our emotions and our different tendencies, right? Our vices and bad habits and dysfunctions. And we owe that to our friends and loved ones. Me personally, I like to be a better friend and a better family member and a better loved one to people in my life. I might be doing the shittiest job ever, but at least I'm trying, and I know that. At the end of the day, I know that for a fact. I'm always trying, sincerely. I may fall short a zillion times every day and never get it right. But you can't give up on yourself. You can't be laying down, giving up on yourself. You know, you can't do that. You got to get back up no matter where you're at right now. Whatever the problem is, you got to keep working. You got to keep trying. You owe it to yourself. You're worth it. You're worth it to yourself. If not to nobody else, you are worth it to yourself. And that's what you always got to hold on to. You know, I'm thinking about talking to you about that. I'm thinking about my studies and things, my meditations with Tibetan Book of the Dead. I started my readings and studies with the Tibetan Book of the Dead back in 2010. Excuse me. Back in 2010. And I have, all these years, continued on. And I remember the part with I think it's the 58 wrathful deities. Tibetan Book of the Dead is really uh, um, a canon of different books. It is a type of Bible, if you will. The Bible is a canon, collection of different books and writings, right? It's not just one book. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead, in that sense, is also a collection of different holy writings. And the thing I appreciate about the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the message behind it is that when you experience these hells, some people will experience quote unquote hells, right? And they don't believe in hell like the Christian hell. It's a recycling of you, and it all depends on your mental state and your awareness of who and what you are, your self-awareness. If I could wrap up the Tibetan Book of the Dead in one word, it would be self-awareness. Knowing your true self and your source and being connected to that. And that's the whole challenge in life when you're living life, and whatever cards you've been dealt with in life that you are living and have to deal with, that's the challenge. But nonetheless, you can keep in contact with that throughout your life and in your death experience. Anyway, you have the peaceful deities and the wrathful deities that you encounter. All depends on you and what you've lived too, and how self-aware you are. And that's the key. You have the process of dealing with the wrathful deities, and when you encounter them, understand that the wrathful deities are really the peaceful deities in their dynamic states. So the soul or the person is experiencing these things and they're translating it as scary, as wrathful deities, but it's actually the same peaceful deities. Samantabhadri and Samantabhadra, emptiness and compassion. And emptiness, not the bleak emptiness, but emptiness. Wow, how can I put that abstract um, idea into words? The emptiness is similar to the no thing that any of us could ever wrap our minds around from the Kabbalistic tree of life. So, uh, in Jewish tradition, not tradition, but in the Jewish, uh, under the Jewish umbrella, there are there is something called the Kabbalah and the Kabbalistic tree of life, more specifically under Kabbalah when you're talking about practical Kabbalah. Okay, there's four main branches of Kabbalah, and the one with the Kabbalistic tree of life is the practical Kabbalah and also the mystical Kabbalah. All right, well, and you also have some touchings in the dogmatic Kabbalah as far as like parts of the Kabbalistic tree being written about in books like the book of Zohar and the book of the Bahir and the Zohar, and to some extent in the Torah, right? However, the Kabbalistic tree and the roots of that is not Jewish. The Jewish were just, they happened to be the people that kept it within in their communities the longest, but actually that has many different roots, and the deepest roots actually spring forth from the continent of Africa. So having said that, back to gosh, I'm going down a pathway. Why was I talking about that? Tibetan Book of the Dead. Oh yeah, the no thing that none of us can wrap our mind around does not mean it's nothing. Okay, and so these terms have been misunderstood by lay people that are reading that. It doesn't mean nothing. The emptiness does not mean nothing. Of the emptiness of the Tibetan Book of the Dead does not mean empty of anything or void of anything. But when you have every single possibility there ever was or ever will be in play, right? It can't be this, because then it would mean there's a limit to it, right? You can't say it's all light, because then there's a limit to what it is. Then it's not light, right? So there's no limit to it. It is everything that you could ever imagine and beyond, and also none of that, right? So again, we're getting into these paradoxical concepts of what we would term in layman's terms, and again, this is inaccurate because it's so much bigger than the concept of God or divinity, right? But having said that, Samantabhadra and Samantabhadri in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you're talking about the emptiness, you're talking about pristine consciousness, pure being, right? And again, when you're talking about that big, huge concept, there's no limit to it. So our minds can't wrap around it. So it may as well be nothing. It may as well not exist because it's outside of our reach of perception and right? So we have these ideas, or what we call archetypes in Jungian psychology, that we can use to wrap our minds around something that we can't wrap our minds around, okay? But what I appreciate about both the Kabbalistic tree and the Kabbalah and the Tibetan Book of the Dead is this thing about self-awareness, because when you work on self-awareness, this is a lifelong process. You will never graduate or get it all done. I don't even believe you can ever get it done, even on a big divine level. It's just, I think it's just an eternal journey of rediscovery of self, and discovering more of self and knowing thyself and knowing others through knowing thyself. So, but the thing I really appreciate about that is the self awareness concept about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and also how, once again, the wrathful deities are really the peaceful deities in their dynamic states. And there's a lot in between that, because when you translate that to everyday life, um, yes, there are some horrible things that happen, but what what can we learn from that? And I think that our lives are very, very intertwined. Our minds affect our life experiences. I really do believe that the mind is very powerful, and I think we can never fully understand the mind, but I think we have yet to really, really even realize just how powerful our minds are. And that's not to say, oh, it's just all in our minds, whatever's happening in our everyday life. No, this is hard, real, solid stuff that's happening. It's real. However, maybe we don't have to feel as fearful about certain things as we might used to be, right? Maybe we don't have to always react, and maybe we can respond, right? Maybe some of these things that make us feel like we're really threatened, maybe it's not that threatened. Or maybe, yes, there's a threat, but maybe we have more, we can now see more choices in that, and as what we can do, and maybe we can do things better that turn out better for ourselves and also better for others involved, whether we like them or not, right? Like conflict resolution. This is a big, big thing. When you pull the teachings from the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Kabbalah and many other places like the I Ching and the Tarot, when you pull things like that into problem solving and conflict resolution, be it with others or with yourself, right? We have a lot of conflicts going on within ourselves too. But resolving them in much more efficient manners and in such a way where there's a win-win, you see. And that's one of the keys I really, really appreciate about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Another thing that really touches my heart about the Tibetan Book of the Dead is that it believes that just by being in mere contact with the mandalas, that you can be blessed and receive the blessings of the Samantabhadra and of Samantabhadri, right? Um, and there's no need for ritual meditation. There's no need for an ongoing everyday practice. You could, just by coming in contact with them, that you can experience compassion, forgiveness, mercy, and grace. And that's very different from these Puritan work ethic religions where you have to do a lot of penance, and you have to do a lot of this, and some of them want you to live ascetic lives, and lives of being poor and hunger, and all of that. It's different, because that's kind of what these were like my introductions into things like that. Throughout my early life was this Puritan work ethic. And I'm not saying hard work isn't in order. Like, I'm a believer in working hard, right? But when it comes to a spiritual path, there's different things. You still will have to work hard, but I think some of these things may have been extreme for our time. You know, maybe it worked for that time period. I cannot judge that, you know, but I think to try to pull that one size fits all, I don't really see it that way. So I really appreciate that with the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And there are many prayer exercises and meditation exercises in preparation for your death, um, and rituals, preparing for your death experience, whenever that is, that call for you to call on your teachers and your spiritual guides. So there, it's not telling you, hey, you must call on this particular deity or this particular guide. It says call on the guides that you've called on all your life. Call on the guides that you've known, right? So I really, really respect that. I really respect that because you know, like I said, my early introductions to religion, things like that, was the types of religions that condemned people that did not call on their particular god, and just, you know, thought the rest of the world didn't even deserve to live. So you know, a spiritual, you know, I'm not judging anybody's religion here now, but for me, I think when you're talking about spirituality, the highest ideal that I would imagine to be divinity, or, you know, these limited concepts of what people would call God or whatever, the highest that I would imagine would be one that would be above any of the names, any of these religions, that anyone at any time who wanted to do so could connect to that. Don't need to go through this or that corporation. Okay, I just don't think of that being that limited, right? So that's one thing I appreciate about that. So, in reference to that, I will say this: no matter where you're at, no matter how sick or healthy you are, there's always room for improvement, and never to give up on yourself, and keep going. Every little bit counts. Every little bit counts. It might not seem that way to you right now because you're in the middle of it, but trust me, every little bit you do counts. Every little inch you make a progress in, whether it's you drink an extra glass of water today, or you might have opened up a mental health book on something that, you know, is personal to you, or you might have journaled your feelings and you took an extra minute to sit with your feelings. Maybe you still reach for that cigarette, but maybe you delayed reaching for that vice 5 extra minutes and sat with that uncomfortable feeling, right? Maybe you held back on yelling at your partner, snapping at your partner, because yeah, you feel really bad, like you're really sick, but you held back. You exercised a little more restraint and a little bit more consideration. Heck, maybe they deserve to be yelled at, but you still said, nah, I don't have to do it every time. I'm gonna have to sit back. Let me just chill back. Let me respond instead of react. Can I give myself a little bit more time to respond? You see, every step forward you make counts. And you must always remember that. That's something I always keep in mind. And I like to verbalize it like I'm doing, because really, you know, I'm not really just talking to you. I'm really just verbalizing and processing these things that we all know, but that we need to be reminded of a lot too, right? Because we know, but we forget. Like we remember, but we don't, right? So it's one of those deals. So yeah, I'm sick as a dog. My nose is stuffed like a turkey. I can't smell or taste nothing right now. I'm trying to smell my pumpkin spice candle that I got from my Glade candle. Can't smell a darn thing. So I think I'm about to close it out for you tonight. I just wanted to check in and give you a little update. I do have COVID, so, you know, good thing you can't get it through the computer. You know what I mean? A good thing, you know, you can't, because then I wouldn't be able to talk to you. But anyway, I'm still working on those other videos. Excuse me. I'm still working on those other videos, I'm going through a rough patch in life right now. Got a frog in my throat. But you know what? I'm still smiling, bitch. I'm still happy. I'm still thriving. I'm still standing, right? Even when I'm not standing, I'm still standing. And that's the attitude you got to have. You got to look at everything that you have. And I looked at everything this past Thanksgiving, and I'm so very thankful. You know what I mean? I'm very blessed. When I started looking at all of the things that I could say, what can I be thankful for? Well, I can be thankful for this computer. I'm thankful for this chair. I got a nice chair. I'm telling you, this is a Serta Posturepedic leather office chair. Okay, I'm thankful for my pumpkin spice candle. It smells so good. It makes the whole place smell so well. It's a very strong, good smelling candle. I'm very thankful that I got it. I love it, right? I'm thankful for this weed that I'm smoking. It's some good premium weed. Like, I'm feeling great on it. I'm thankful for this cell phone. I'm thankful for this music that I'm able to play. Back in the day, you couldn't play anything unless you had an LP. So the amount of songs that I was able to play was very limited. Now, any song that I want from any era, I could pull it up. Back in the day, I used to have to buy it from the record store or else tape it off the radio and hope the DJ didn't speak in between the music and mess up my song for me. And, hope that I could catch it from beginning to end. Because I had a lot of cassette tapes that I used to record, like half songs that almost were over and at the end. And then the DJ would talk all over it and shit. Yeah. So now, I don't have that problem. I haven't even bought an LP or a CD, or I haven't bought songs in a long time. I mean, I have premium, YouTube Music Premium, that thing that I subscribe to. So in a sense, I am paying, but I haven't had to buy a $19 or $20 album in a long time. Excuse me. I'm thankful for my Wi-Fi headphones that I'm able to take to the gym because back in the day, again, I used to have to take my cassette player to the gym. And I had all these wires and stuff that would get snagged and caught up in the machines. And then I had to hit rewind to get back to the song. And, if I wanted a song that was close to the beginning of the tape, it took a few moments and a few minutes to rewind all the way back. So, I had to stop my workout to do that. Like now I don't have to do any of that. I could just hit a couple of things on my phone, boom, there's my song. I have my playlist already queued up, got a wireless headphone. I don't have to worry about wires snagging. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all the friends and family I have. Really, you got to be thankful for the good people in your life. Because I'm not saying there's not many good people on this earth, but it's not that easy to have the ones that vibe with you, and that you vibe with. It's not that easy. So I'm thankful for the ones that are in my life. I've got some really great friends that look out for me, and that kind of help keep checks and balances on me, and that aren't afraid of my, they're not they're not afraid to tell me the truth, even if they know it might piss me off or it might not be well received at first, right? It's hard to swallow certain pills. So, and I'm the same way with them. Like I'm not afraid to say, hey, you know what? I see it this way, and you know what I mean. Like we have a respect for each other, and I think I think I'm very lucky and blessed to have these types of people in my life where they're safe, I'm safe for them, and they're safe for me. We have an understanding, and we're not just tickling each other's ears or fawning or giving each other fake BS. Like it's a real deal. Like we're also seeing the shadow sides of each other and of ourselves, and we're not afraid to check each other on that and deal with that and sit back and marinate on that. You know what I mean? And regroup and all of that stuff. So and these things are not easy, and not everyone's gonna go through that process with you. Not everyone's vested in you the same way, and vice versa. You don't want to vest in everyone the same way either, you know. And it just some of these things take time. Certain people, it takes time, and again, you know, this is work. This is work. You have to continuously work on yourself to keep people in your life, and to keep friends and family and loved ones, and to keep those relationship dynamics, those interpersonal relationships, to keep them healthy. And you know, that's not always easy because people aren't perfect, you know, and people can go through mental health issues where, you know, you might be dealing with someone who's doing A, B, and C, and you might have to make a decision. Wouldn't necessarily have to cut them off, but you know, you might have to pull back a little bit and let them go ahead and, you know, deal with whatever they deal with. You know what I mean? But at the same time, also be there as a source of support and not abandon them when they need a friend, right? But sometimes, you know, the lines can be blurred. Sometimes people, when they're sick, they might cross certain boundaries where you have to say, listen, I need a little space, you know. Um, I think you might need to handle this and this, and, you know, I need a little time, you know, but I'm here for you, you know. Because some people, I'm telling you, some people, I had a friend tell me, emergency friend system test. And it's these people that always have a crisis, and it's basically they just want to test to see if you're still their friend type of thing, right? You know, it's not people that are, they have real crises, but it's like they continuously perpetuate these. They have these cycles that they are not getting out, and it can be overwhelming dealing with somebody who's constantly has crisis after crisis after crisis after, like they're addicted to crisis. Seriously, like they can't live without there being three or four different types of crises going on at the same time, you know. And it can be unreal, like it gets unreal. Like I've dealt with people like that. Not to say that people who are having crises, real crises, aren't having crises, no, but there are certain types of emotional and mental disorders and imbalances that I don't have names for right now, and that might not be easily categorized either. You know, this mental health stuff isn't a straight line, by the way. Like, you don't have it all neatly packaged and handed to you. Like, a lot of this stuff is guesswork. You know, they just try to come up with names so they can diagnose it for insurance purposes so somebody can get paid over this stuff. But, you know, a lot of this stuff, it can be very highly subjective. You know, like you can be diagnosed by one doctor and another one will put a different diagnosis in there, and then another one, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of this is not very neat, okay? But you know when there's something going on. You know what I mean? Like, you know when you're not physically feeling well, and mentally is the same thing. You know, and like I said, even if you are feeling well, I still recommend mental health counseling and reading on mental health, keeping a journal and reviewing your journals, you know, keeping a dream diary, recording your dreams, recording your activities, you know, keeping a daily check-in journal with yourself and noting your emotions and getting your hot buttons, your triggers, you know, and seeking that self-awareness. So that's something that I feel is important in life, and having a whole thing, you know, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. And notice when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religious. I'm not advocating any religions. I'm talking about straight up you and your higher self, or your God, or your divinity, or whatever term you use to describe something beyond yourself that is higher and bigger and better and so forth, right? Because really, that's what we need to do as human beings. Whether you're somebody who's religious or an atheist, even if you're an atheist, can you imagine yourself better and bigger and more expanded and more improved, right? That's the key. It's something that you mentally and emotionally and psychically reach for constantly. And the idea of infinity or divinity, where there's no limit to it, it's beyond anything we could wrap our minds around. That's such a huge big idea that you could constantly, and you can make an image of that mental image. You That's something that you can constantly reach for forever, because you're never gonna. It's limitless. It's infinite, so you're never gonna get to the end of it. So you're constantly reaching up. You're constantly growing, because once you can mentally and visually visualize and have a vision of yourself growing and expanding, then that is going to trickle through the other levels of your existence, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. You see, and it is going to increase your ability for recovery when you do have your mental health sessions, because I think the spiritual component to mental health is very important, and at some point it used to be together. The the tribal rituals that our ancestors did, all of our ancestors, because we all stem from Africa. Our mitochondrial DNA of every person on the face of this earth can be traced back to a common ancestor, female ancestor out of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. So uh, there's that. So what was I saying about that? Oh man, sub-Saharan Africa, common ancestor. Oh, slipped my mind. Forgive me, I'm not feeling well. All right, give me a minute. Let me try to remember. Oh yeah, the mental health was connected to the spiritual. Our ancestors all across the globe, our ancestors had rituals. They had spiritual rituals that they did that included a type of mental health, is what we would maybe, and again, these words are not 100% accurate, okay? But we could file under mental health counseling, okay? But it was tied together in their spiritual rituals, you see. Ritual is to the psyche the same as food is to the physical body, okay? We all have needs. It is a human psychological need, and a psychic and emotional and mental need, okay? And there is a physical need for ritual too, for rituals. And rituals are basically a set of behaviors that are done over and over again at a specific time for a specific purpose, okay? And our ancestors, we had these rituals that they did surrounding the sun and food growing out of the ground. Okay. So these rituals were life and death. So back in my earlier discussion, I talked about epigenetics, right? So this is imprinted in our DNA. It is imprinted in our cells. It is imprinted in our physical body. This need for rituals, because it helped our ancestors survive physically and, of course, mentally and emotionally. But at the time, humanity was still at the fight or flight level. We needed to survive. So if the sun didn't shine, we died. We all were dead. If the crops didn't grow very well this year, some of us starved to death. And who would that be? Because none of us wanted to starve, right? So you can imagine your family and you are dependent on the sun and the crops growing out of the ground. So what if you could figure a way to get more crops? Who did you need to talk to and appease, right? So that's where these rituals came from. And they had these cave drawings where they would draw the buffalo that they needed to hunt to eat, where they would draw the corn that they needed to grow, right? That they needed Later on, they had agriculture. And agriculture, all of these ancestors, their stories are similar. There are these myths of gods or beings coming from the sky. But I don't think it may have been a physical thing as much as a psychic event, higher levels of the mind and spirit. And these things, these occurrences, these contacts happen through these rituals that our ancestors had around growing crops and harvesting crops. That's why we have the holidays like Christmas and Easter and all that. These were fertility and harvesting rituals done to appease the personified beings they made out of the sun and out of the environment around us, right? And hey, something must have been right because we wouldn't exist, right? Like they survived long enough to reproduce, and generations and generations did that. And of course, we advanced in agriculture and quote unquote civilization, and here we are. So, somewhere down the line, I think they must have done something right with these rituals. Okay, now I'm not saying that we need to go back to these exact rituals, but it is a need that we have it is embedded in your body, in your DNA. And the problem is we have lost these rituals. We have replaced them with debased versions, and we have lost uh, our awareness of why we need these rituals, why they're so important, you see. So you can reclaim, you don't have to go without that loss. I think a large problem of the world today is that people, the wars and the violence and the fighting and the division and the narcissism and all of this junk and craziness is 99%, I believe, is people not knowing that they have a need for these rituals because these rituals connect them to that which we call divinity or the absolute or higher self or whatever you want to call it, God, right? This is not a religious thing I'm talking about. This is a natural nature thing. There is a component to us that is physical, there's a component that is emotional, there's a component that is mental, and there's a component that is a spirit. There's a spirit, right? And just because they're not physical, just because we're not able to perceive them with our limited senses that can only perceive a limited spectrum of sight and sound and taste and touch, it doesn't mean that there aren't other beyond our abilities, other things there. There is. We're filtering out a lot. We're basically blind bats. We think we know everything and see everything so clearly, but we're just blind bats in the bigger scheme of things. We're not even visible in the bigger, universe. So, but at the same time, we are insignificant, but we are also very significant because we have the strongest and the biggest, most powerful technology. Every one of us walking. We're talking about embedding AI in us and downloading our mind file and all that, maybe, but we already have way, way more advanced technology. And it's called the imagination. And see, the big trick that we've been taught by our culture and our traditions in society is that imagination is useless, it's fantasy, it's for kids, it's daydreaming. And the problem with that is a lot of people fell for that brainwashing, you see. But imagination that I'm talking about is constructive, highly focused, sharp imagination put to practical use, you see, or what some people call magic. I'm not talking about stage magic. I'm not talking about that foo-foo new age crap, when they want to sell you a bunch of rocks and some MLM disguised as some kind of new age or self-improvement bullshit. No, I'm not talking about any of that jazz. Again, I'm talking about straight up you and you, your nature, your true nature, getting that self-awareness, you see, getting that self-awareness because when you start getting expanding into those higher levels, first thing you're going to realize is responsibility. Your mind, your mind, your mind creates your reality, and that can be a scary journey. It's a scary journey. Oh, scary journey, scary journey. Speaking of mental health, I'm going to leave in a bit, but there's people out there taking them psychedelic drugs. I'm telling you, they're taking psychedelic drugs out there, talking about how that's helping people with depression, with treatment resistant depression, and long standing depression and anxiety, and how they are taking microdoses of these magic mushrooms and smoking cannabis out there, and they're not tripping. They're not taking big enough doses to trip. It's the microdoses. And they're saying that's helping people out there. So I'm thinking about looking into that a little bit. I'm thinking about looking into that a little bit. And I don't know. It sounds pretty far-fetched and crazy people out there doing that. But you know what? They just want to take them psychedelics. That's what they want. They just want to flip out. As if the world isn't flipped out enough already, you got all these psychedelic people out here wanting to flip out. Can you believe that? Oh man, I kill myself sometimes. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing pretty good. I think I'm about to close it out. I think I've talked enough about enough. So it might take me a little while to make another video. We'll see. I'm gonna try to just continue to power through. Don't have any choice but to continue to power through this thing. But as soon as I get back on my track, I will be coming out with another video on the mental health topic, narcissism, and talking about acquired communal narcissism. And yeah, I think it's good to get into something. Find yourself something good to do. You know what I'm talking about? Find yourself a topic of interest and hit that local public library. Support your local public library, people, okay? All right, go get into your local library and pull out some of the books on the shelf there. You know, pull out the books on narcissism if you have to, or mental health, or something, improving something, knitting sweaters, something. Pull out a book from the local public library, okay? Support your local public library. And what else do I want you to do? Here's some more homework. Just be happy, Just try to be happy as best as you can. I know that's hard. I know when shit is fucked up, it's hard. But I want you to know I love you and you matter. Yeah, you certainly do. We all matter. So, yeah. Anyway, enough of that. I don't want to get cheesy and corny on you. See, this, you know what? This COVID has me real corny and stuff. I don't need that, because I'm known as a roaster, okay? I'm known as a crazy roaster. All right, take care. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.
Every time she let me smash, I make her do splish splash. I wanna win, I gotta work. Look, if I put in half, I'ma get back
what it's worth. If I go give her my all, I'ma get what I deserve. If I give it to the streets, the streets know I had it first. I gotta go, skirt, skirt, I gotta go.
I need your lips saying when to go. No one do it even if you say so. Got a memory of when I roll. Don't be my ear, baby, if you ain't know. Now the flames, they wanna rush. It started a stream, now I'm just straight flood. Off the lanes, it's nothing. Little change got you envying something. Seems so sad. Think of friends I had. Won't rub it in, baby, cause I got class. Don't wanna brag, wanna get the big bag.